See the title of the video. I'm here to tell you that Avengers Endgame is some ass. If you don't want to hear the analogy that I'm gonna make, it's very graphic, then please skip ahead with the timestamps below. You'll be able to skip the analogy completely. But for those who want to listen, Avengers Endgame is essentially a circle jerk, with us viewers directly smack dead in the middle, getting hit right, left, and center with references from better movies that we will much rather be watching. And the worst part about it is, when they're finished, they essentially just look at us, say thank you for your money, and fuck off. I have 3 legitimate reasons outside of my analogy as to why I truly do not like this movie. And the 3 reasons being, the entire plot unravels if one moment doesn't happen, the story's pacing is awful, and oh my lord, the green screen of death that plagues almost every single Marvel movie. A wise man once said, if you are able to take one moment, throw it completely out of your story, and your story unravels and it falls apart, then your story was a piece of shit to begin with, and you need to make changes. The moment that I'm talking about here, that I'm really alluding to, is the moment where a rat is able to release Ant-Man from the quantum realm. The entire plot of Avengers Endgame literally happens on a whimsical chance. The direction that they took the story after Avengers Infinity War, which actually was a good movie. This movie made me enjoy Infinity War more. The way that they chose to follow it up with things by circumstantial chances happening after to make the story possible is a very awful writing structure. It was not good whatsoever, and it definitely could take you out of your belief of the story. It just does not flow whatsoever. Speaking of story flow, the pacing of the movie was god awful. For the first 2 acts, they move extremely slow. They move at a very, very, very slow pace. And what they try to deliver is, in the first act, is somber, what are we gonna do? Everything's all fucked up since, the Infinity War kind of fucked everybody's shit up. Half everybody's gone. It was very somber, very depressing, which if they hit the beats correctly, it would feel actually impressive. If it wasn't for the later half of the movie, then these moments could feel impressive. But once Scott gets released from the quantum realm, it delves into the Thor Ragnarok type comedy, which was very hit or miss in the Thor Ragnarok movie, but for me it hit more times than none because I had my brain turned off, and relatively speaking, that was the best Thor movie. But in here, where it's much more serious, much more grounded, that humor in the second act did nothing but really took me out of the story. It took me out of the immersion, and that goes right along with the pacing. The first 2 acts were extremely boring, extremely dull. All they had to do was throw references directly at you. Oh, joke here, joke there, but let's try to progress the plot as we please. The first 2 acts with them trying to gather all the Infinity Stones was an awful episode of Dragon Ball Z, to be completely frank with you. It wasn't until the 3rd act where they actually picked up the story and it started to feel more alive, it started to feel more vibrant, and it actually felt like a fun movie. But it's a 3-hour fucking movie. In other words, the point that I'm really trying to illustrate is that Avengers Endgame could have really been an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, and been enjoyable. But instead, we have an entire hour and a half's worth of deletable content within the movie that does nothing but attempt to humor the viewer with awful jokes, dumbass references, and other things that can truly stall a story. Out of all the gripes that I've just mentioned, this one may seem the most opinionated, but this is the one that I truly hate the most, because it's a problem that's plagued the MCU around after the first phase, maybe even some within the first phase. But the movie has too big of a reliance on green screen and also CGI. Before you come screaming at me, I get it. You want to make a superhero movie. You want to make it larger than life, very grandiose. You have set pieces and images in your head. You think, it's just not possible to do it practically. But what that does, it makes your movie look fake as shit. Like, I truly understand. You want to make it look pretty, but what you really end up with is a gray ass movie, because that's what the entire color of the movie is. It's just pure fucking gray. A gray ass movie that feels like an animated show with random humans in it, with random real people. And it just looks awful. It looks fucking awful. The practicality is just not there whatsoever. And this is a problem that was also in Infinity War, but at least with Infinity War, the set pieces look better. It looked like they actually gave a shit. In this one, it doesn't look like they gave as much as of a shit. It really does not. And I truly hate how these actors... Oh my lord, the acting performances would be much better if there were actual practical measures around them and not just entire fields of green. They can actually imagine their scenarios much better, and you'll get much better performances from them. Movies that I say are some of the best that I've ever seen, that are all over my top 10 list, some of my favorite movies, majorly practical. Rarely have a reliance on green screen, and not all of them are entirely based in real life. Some also are able to express these grandiose ideas. They're also able to express these epics without having to have a pure reliance on CGI. You can still have practical sets and mix it in with CGI. Am I saying that CGI is awful? No. Very proper CGI. Where it looks good, it looks fucking fantabulous. I just feel as though the cinematographer, for a majority of these movies, they are definitely having a much harder time. Because the color grade of it is all over the place. It's gray. Maybe as gray as this fucking video. I think I'm gonna make this fucking video gray to illustrate a point. It's gray as shit. There's no color. There's no contrast. It's just helps add to the bland feeling of it. In conclusion, if you actually made it this far in the video, you clearly see that I'm sitting in a Marvel Iron Man gaming chair. I've been sitting in this since August. It's been one of my favorite purchases, because if there's one thing that I really love in life, I truly love superheroes. I may not be the biggest fan of most things Marvel, but I absolutely adore superhero aesthetics. Spider-Man is one of my favorites of all time. And the way that they've butchered him in the MCU, I'll say that for a different time. But long gone are the days of movies like the original Iron Man, where it was a beautiful tale with meaning. Avengers Endgame has no meaning whatsoever. Now, if you look me in my eyes and you tell me that it was just there to entertain us, why do we go back to our favorite stories? Why do we go back to our favorite movies? Because they have meaning, they have purpose to us. They actually were able to articulate a message through the actions on screen to us, and that's really what resonated with us. I feel as though Avengers Endgame is completely devoid of meaning, very bland, mediocre at best, and fell short of the expectations of almost every single person. Whenever I hear people talk about how much money it made at the box office, I think to myself, who gives a shit? The reason why it made so much money is because it's literally like almost the 20th-ish, I'm rounding. It's like the 20th movie in a fucking series that we started to care about early on, because the movies actually had meaning and not every single one of them was a mediocre shit show that just gets put out every year because, oh, we need to fill the status quo while Rotten Tomatoes sucks the shit out of his dick, giving it an 80 to 85%, knowing that it's mid as shit, very forgettable, and the only reason why we're watching it is just to see a continuation of the story. Marvel has made some really good movies, but Avengers Endgame is sure as hell not one of them. Hey, you enjoyed the video? If you did, then you should leave a like, maybe even a comment, and definitely punch this button right here to subscribe. Hey, but don't go nowhere too quick now, because right here and right here, it's going to be 2 videos. 2 of my previous ones. They're going to be just as good, if not even better than what you just saw. Have a good one.